Hey, welcome to Caching in the Northwest. You know, this is the podcast from the birthplace of geocaching right here in the great Pacific Northwest. Now, it's Thursday at 9 p.m. Pacific, and they call me Chris of the Northwest. And we're going to talk about geocaches and geocachers from here and all around the world. So while you're stuck in standstill traffic on the freeway, we'll be caching in the Northwest. And now, tonight, we are going to be talking about 10 things Tulare loves about CacheTur. So, as always, live audience, we love our live audience. Please share your thoughts with us. But we can't do that until we bring in our wise friend. Some say his muscles are so rock hard you can use them for earth caches. And others say his thoughts are so sharp they should come with warning labels. All we know is he's called Wit's End.
Hey, it's good to be here. I was afraid you're going to introduce me as somebody else for the script, but there you go. And, you know, you mentioned that live chat. They're already jumping in there.
I know.
Just Finding Our Way says, good evening from Arizona. Should be a good one. CacheTur in combination with Project GC is my all-time favorite trip planning tool. So,
love
got
it.
a fan already in the chat there.
And he's not alone. Apparently, we have an echo on the podcast from TRS 98.
Yeah. Okay. Well, welcome. Tulare, welcome to the show.
Hi.
We're excited to talk about CacheTur and all of the, well, at least 10, maybe not all, but 10 of the top things you want to know about it. But first,
we could only fit 10 into the episode. We can't fit everything.
There's so much more. You'll just have to come back at the time or find her on the trail and chat about it there on a road trip. First, of course, though, we have to give a quick reminder. We appreciate the support of our patrons who help to keep this podcast coming each week. So special thanks to Land Sharks. They are one of our corporate Denali level sponsors. You can check out all they have to offer at landsharks.ca. That's LANDSHARKZ.ca. Got some great stuff up there, and they're shipping stuff daily, I understand. And our other corporate Denali level sponsor, well, that would be Gold Country Geotourism. You can visit exploregoldcountry.com, learn more about the GeoTour and the entire Gold Country region. Don't forget, download their app. That's exploregoldcountry.com or facebook.com/exploregoldcountry. And if you or anyone out there wants to know more about supporting the show and joining the fine list of patrons, head over to the CachingNW.com website and click the Patreon link. I don't know if it's up, down, left, right there, but it's there. You shouldn't have to look too far.
It's usually on the left side of the page, but who knows which way we're facing on that page.
Right, you know, and if you're looking at it on a phone, tablet, whatever.
Good point. Good point. Hey. Thank you. Now, before we get into our topic, which I absolutely love CacheTur, by the way, we need to talk about the glows. Now, sometimes people have asked, what is a glow?
I have heard people ask, and it sounds like, what is a glow?
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
A glow is the geocaching log of the week. And thank you, GSM times 2.
That's right.
The geocaching log of the week. So whether you read it or whether you wrote it, we want to hear about it because great logs simply make geocaching better. You can send an email or a recording you do on your fancy little smartphone. Email that to feedback@cachingnw.com. You can call. Yes, on that same smartphone, you can actually make phone calls. You can call into 253-693-TFTC and show us just how you glow.
That's right. And tonight's glow, well, it was sent in by Monkey Cakes. I think it came in via that email address because it says the feedback here. And the glow is from GCHT3R, a ride on the Lake One. It's GC, what is it? Hotel Tango 3 Romeo. It looks almost like G Cheater on the when you see it spelled out there, but maybe it's supposed to be a CacheTur.
Oh, there you go.
No. Let's see. This one, so Monkey Cake sent it in. The log was written by Night Mantis And it says, after gathering all the necessary ingredients to get this cache, the son and I headed out. The lesson that should be learned here is that you truly get what you pay for. I was reminded of this as the son and I sat on shore waiting for the $11 compressor to fill the cheapest two-man raft money could buy. In about 10 minutes, the compressor had put the equivalent out of about 2 breaths of air into the raft. And with daylight swiftly waning and my OCD flaring up like a pack of rabid dingoes, I set into hyperventilating my watercraft to seaworthiness. Still lightheaded from the inflation process, I executed a rather lackluster launch effort that results in about a half gallon of water spilling over the edge of our raft. My son, weighing 70 pounds, remains on the high and dry side of the boat, while my pants and underwear do their impression of a bilge pump. After that, though, it was smooth sailing. Can't wait to do the rest of the local lake caches. Thanks for taking the time to make this cache.
I thought that was very well worded. I could just feel the water coming up.
A little squish, squish. Yeah, you may have to go wring out your undies in a bathroom sink somewhere or something. I don't know.
Oh, too much fun. But you know what?
What?
Let's take a moment and think about 10 things you appreciate. And hopefully it's all related to CacheTur, because we have the wonderful I had it and now I lost it. Twillair. There we go.
Good job.
With us tonight. Thank you so much for sitting through our silliness and joining us on the podcast tonight. If it's possible that somebody listening, this may be the first time they've ever heard this podcast, welcome, we would say. Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, like maybe what your favorite type of cache is.
Okay. Well, I love listening to the show, so it's really fun to be sitting here talking with you guys at the same time too. And I love talking about CacheTur. So I'm excited about that. And I'm one of the weirdos that really likes multi-caches. So that's me, multi-caches.
I enjoy them as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's really satisfying to adventure through a multi-cache.
Nice. Now, I just want to let you know you are known by our folks because Komakino says, I mentioned Twillair in my next caching video posted tomorrow, and I couldn't pronounce her name either. We had a little help just before the podcast.
Yeah.
It's okay. Twillair, TW-lair, just don't call me late for dinner.
Dun, dun. Now, tonight we are talking about CacheTur. And if you want to join in the conversation, use the hashtag TUR, tour, right? Just the last part. We're making it simple, 3 letters, TUR. In the chat, of course, you can use the hashtag FTAS if you want to talk about anything unrelated to CacheTur in the FTAS, in the for the after show section. Well, I forgot what it was called. Just it's FTAS.
Or the FTAS, because,
FTAS for the after show. Hey, that works, doesn't it?
That?
Fantastic. Hey, one more piece of news.
Yeah.
Don't forget that Big Blue Switch Day is coming up on May 2nd, right? As the time this podcast gets out onto the feeds, if you're not watching it live, it may already be upon you. Remember that Geocaching HQ has created a souvenir for geocachers to celebrate, as I like to put it, Big Blue Switch Day. Earn this souvenir. Cachers must find one geocache, event cache, or adventure lab location between May 2nd and May 5th, 2024. Right in there falls May the 4th. Just throwing that out there. I know there's some local events.
It's like Cinco de Mayo Eve.
Yes, exactly. Is that how you say it?
That's how I say it. Yeah, so you got 4 days to celebrate one day.
Right. And you have 2 days, a weekend to celebrate an Earth Day. And then, like you got 1 day to celebrate a geocaching week or something like that. The time is not linear. It doesn't work out. The maths aren't mathing.
But since it is a monkey-free zone tonight, we don't have to talk about Earth caches if we don't want to.
I feel so much more relieved.
Tonight we're going back to CacheTur and Twilare. So we're so glad you're here.
It's great to be here.
Now, you've brought your top 10 list, and I'm just chomping at the bit to figure out what they could be, because I have a top 10 list and I hope they line up. I'm sure we have probably the same 10 items, but maybe not in the same order. So folks at home, you can play along, start your top 10 list of the things you love in CacheTur. And of course, we're going to take live questions as this goes along. So toss them in there. Don't forget that hashtag TUR, because we need it. We're without a monkey. We're without a chat lackey. And you know what? Things are going to go well.
They are. And I'm anxious to hear Twilare's 10, Chris of the Northwest 10, the chat's 10, lots of 10s out there. But first, maybe somebody's new to CacheTur. Well, let's set the stage and remind everybody just exactly what CacheTur is and what it's good for.
Yes, CacheTur is a trip planning tool for geocachers, and it lets you plan trips of any length or purpose on your own or with a group. And Tur is TUR is tour in Norwegian. The developer is in Norway, and that's why it has that .no domain for the website, which is CacheTur.no.
Oh, I thought it was Italian. I thought it was a CacheTur, though. No? Okay.
It's a great tool. We've used it on our.
I love it. I love it. Now, I can't wait any longer. What's number one on your list? What is the thing you love the most about CacheTur?
This was so hard for me, Chris, to pick the one thing that was going to go at the top of my list. And I don't know if ours was the same, but my favorite is route optimization. I can throw in a bunch of caches or whatever's, put in a starting point, put in an ending point, and CacheTur will solve the traveling salesman for me. It'll sort them and put them in a pretty optimal order. And I just love that. It works for a long trip, a short trip, and that's usually how I do it. Start with the long trip and then, dial down into it. Mm-hmm. Your routing can be optimized for driving, walking, or bicycling. And I do all those things. So I love that part of it. And it will sort, it'll optimize your route for up to 80 waypoints. So it's a great tool, really, really useful.
That's like 3 weekends in a row of caching for me, or, lunch hour for Land Monkey.
Well, I was saying, so you could break that up into multiple trips if you had more, if you wanted to do, say, I don't know why you would do route planning necessarily for, like, say, the ET highway where you're going to get, several hundred in a day, right? It's just one after the other until you run out of gas.
Exactly.
In the desert. Yeah.
So, Or the Route 66 Adventure Lab series. GSM times 2 says, maybe she could relate the CacheTur to your trip to get all the historic Route 66 Adventure Labs.
Yeah, it actually was really useful when I was going through New Mexico, and New Mexico, there's several different. They went along every alignment instead of just choosing one historical alignment for Route 66. They used all the alignments. So I actually did use it to figure out the best way to cover all the adventure labs in that series. Hi, Scott.
Well, and just finding our way says routing is crucial, quickly backed up by the trip summary page. Now, look, he jumped ahead.
You jumped ahead, John.
That wasn't fun. That wasn't fair. Only one item at a time so we can post here. No, I'm just kidding. Whatever you like. So fantastic trip routing or route optimization. That was the original reason I used CacheTur.
Same.
I'm sorry, CacheTur. I get silly with it. It's fantastic. I remember using it for some, I think it was the first time I used it out in the field was the Roseburg GeoCoin Challenge. You know, lining up all those, making it a quick, easy trip. I wish I had used it this year because we missed one and we had to, you know, it was one at the very end. We had to route around. It cost us another, I don't know, 45 minutes of travel, but nonetheless.
Yep. It's great. Just great for stuff like that. As long as you remember to put in all the waypoints.
Yes, right. You got to put in all the waypoints. Yeah. It can only do what you tell it to do.
All right. So route optimization is the number one. How about number two?
I would have to say my second favorite is I'm a person who likes to fit as much into the day as I possibly can. And so I really like that it gives me some pretty darn accurate timing estimates for how long it's going to take me to do those 80 caches or whatever number is in there. Not just the driving time, but it takes it for the time estimates. It takes into account things like cache type, difficulty in terrain, you know, those kinds of things, and it just produces pretty accurate timings. And you can also set your own personalizations for that. So you're a faster walker. There's a button that you can say, I'm a little bit of a faster walker, or those kinds of things. Or I need extra time because I like to go through the swag in every cache. Then you can have that personalization too. So I think it's just a really useful for helping me see, have I put too much into this day? Have I put you know, not enough? Am I going to end up with time at the end of the day? I don't want that. I want to keep going till the sun's down. So
that's right.
Yeah. And you can also override those times. So it's just so, you know, flexible.
Dora Moore says, I used CacheTur to plan a 7-day, 250 cache trip. It gave me an idea of how long each section of the area would take us. That's exactly the timings you were talking about, right?
Yep.
Get an idea of how long each.
Exactly. Dora Moore is exactly right, that it just gives you a really good idea how long something's going to take, and, you know, how much you can bite off. And you can also divide a trip into sub trips. So, you know, when she's using a CacheTur to plan a 7-day trip, you might start out by putting a bunch of caches in the parent trip, kind of figure out your general routing, and then you start planning day by day, using a sub trip for every day. And then, like John says, a trip summary will show you everything.
Okay. And
that's on your whole
speaking
trip.
of John, just finding our way, my summer trip has 40 sub trips, one for each day.
That's a big trip.
He may not be an overachiever just yet, but he's working on it.
Getting close. Yeah.
Wow. And back to the timings, CRS98 says this really allows you to know how many more or less, or more you can or can't fit in a day.
Yeah. All right.
Fantastic. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to say that's a great purpose, because we all want to optimize as much time as we can. How about, let's move down to number 3.
Yeah, number 3. It kind of also relates to the timings. I love that I can switch my routing mode. I can tell CacheTur, I'm gonna drive up to this point. I'm gonna park the car here. We're gonna get out and we're gonna hike and we're gonna do this loop. When we get back to the car, we're gonna start a new driving leg, and it will take all that into consideration. You know, it'll update the timings. It has maps for routing on trails pretty much everywhere.
That's great.
And so it really does. I just really like that again, my timings are more accurate because it's not assuming that I'm driving everywhere. It knows that when I'm on a trail, I'm going to go walking speed, or when I'm biking, I'm going to go biking speed. So just
you mentioned earlier that you could switch modes. I didn't realize you could do it mid-trip. I thought it was like a global setting. So that's really nice.
Mid-trip. And the way you do that is you set like a trailhead or a parking waypoint at the beginning of your mode switch. You just switch the mode right there. It's just in a little pull down, And then from that point on until you change it, you're going with that mode. And then again, you can, put your parking waypoint, a second incident of that. And then you're saying, I'm going to switch to driving from here.
That's
and the
great.
route optimization also has a drop down for which mode you're using for your optimization, because, walking in the city might be a different routing, for example, than driving in the city.
Sure.
So it really does a good job of switching to different modes.
Well, CRS98, who's very active tonight, says it's really helpful to use parking cords to route to the best way, right? So
Okay.
there's some of them that, you can't park right at the cache, but here's where you can park, and it'll allow that time to walk to the cache, I believe, will it not?
I think he's talking about, you can, for any individual, like a cache or any waypoint, you can just say, for this one, I just want you to use the parking coordinates. I don't want you to use the actual coordinates of the cache. And then it just uses that for when you're doing that. The first thing I talked about, the route optimization, it'll use that parking waypoint rather than the actual cache coordinates. I think that's what Cliff is talking about, because it does that too. You can do that as a kind of a optional thing.
Well, and then on the coordinates topic, IHAM asks, how does it handle solved puzzle caches with updated coordinates? Because those are often different than the published coordinates.
Yeah, you can just import them from geocaching.com if you've updated on geocaching.com, or you can just update cache by cache inside of CacheTur if that's better for you.
If you've solved them on paper, you can just update them within there. Or if you have saved them to your saved coordinates on geocaching.com, whether that be through an app that uses the API to put those saved coordinates onto the website and the app. CRS98 says, you can fetch solved coords from your geocaching account.
Thanks, Cliff. You put that better than I could.
We love the chat.
Fantastic. Let's see. I think I'm going to put this in here. I was debating, seeing if it would fit in somewhere else. Seaback Tribe says, I recently used it to include all my reservation and cost to be able to find them more quickly when traveling.
That's
great. And it's not one of my top 10 features, but you can even use it for calculating cost sharing for group trips. So,
wow.
I mean, it even goes down to that level of detail, because it's originally was designed for group trips. There's some nice features in there. And Lori, I do the same thing. There's even a cache type that's called flight. And I'll put in for flight, I'll put in all the time, the relevant times, flight numbers, my confirmation number, or whatever, record locator, whatever it's called, number. So it's just right there. It's just right there. I just love it.
That makes a lot of sense. You're caching all day long. You may as well navigate right to the hotel.
Sure.
And there on that same app you've been using all day, pop it up and say, hey, here's my reservation number. I'm here.
Yep.
Good. That is, of course, if she's not being arrested for some reason. And we'll have to talk about that in an upcoming show. Let's see. CRS98 also says you can enter parking coordinates or parking waypoints for any cache. Sometimes you need to park at a parking lot and not on I-90.
Oh no.
Yeah, but they've got the wide shoulders there. You can just run, go get the cache, come back. Nobody's going to notice.
Just tell them you're putting on chains.
Oh, that's it. You're pulling over to put on chains.
It's the chain up area.
July.
Yeah. It's just planning ahead to get good parking.
Okay. What do you have for your number 4 favorite item?
Okay. I don't know what yours is, Chris, but mine is using priority settings to help me kind of keep myself on track in the field. So I use it for flexibility. So CacheTur lets you set priority of any waypoint at priority 1, 2, 3, or just no priority. And so I use them as 4 priority levels. And I use priority 1 for caches that I call do or die trying. And those are always included in my route calculation. And then for priority 2, which is yellow, Priority 1 is red. So red has got to get that one. Priority 2 is caches they're counted in the route calculation, but they're ones I could give up if I was running behind and needed to cut something out. Not that usually happens, but
Gotcha.
sometimes your priorities change, or sometimes
Sure.
it's raining and you're like, maybe we don't want to do
Yeah.
everything. And then I use priority 3 for only if we have extra time. So they're along the route. They're interesting enough that I put them on the list, but they're not included in the timings. And so we normally would, just stop for those if we just had extra time and wanted to fill it by finding a cache.
Now,
and then I just use go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but if you're using that priority 3, are those routed in the route calculations? So you're still running by them?
So so they would be on the way, but they're not included in the timing.
Not in the timings, right?
So it's not adding any time for any small deviations, and it's not adding time for finding the cache.
Gotcha. Right.
So that's just how I personally do it. But that it gives you a lot of flexibility using these different priorities, and you can include them, exclude them from from the routing calculation, from the time calculation for your trip, from your route. You can include or exclude them as groups. And of course, you can always include, and you can do that for individual waypoints too. You can include or exclude an individual waypoint from calculation as well, which is getting kind of into the weeds, but it's one of my favorite. It's my favorite feature. So
you're really not, because the chat has lit up with this topic.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
CRS 98 says I use priority 3 caches as really optional ones that, aren't.
Sounds like we use it pretty much the same.
Yeah. Exactly. Seabeck Tribe says I've included possibility caches that I'll put them on, but not to include. And Just Finding Our Way says that's how he uses P3 as well. So there you go.
You're in good company.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So I think we've knocked out 4 already. That takes us to 5, of course, right? We're almost halfway through the list here. What's number 5 for you?
Well, I think Just Finding Our Way kind of touched on using CacheTur with Project GC, and that is a great use. And I just put that under the umbrella of the CacheTur Assistant browser extension. And it is so useful. And so you're selected. So what this is it's a browser extension that you install under Tamper Monkey, and it shows your trip route as a line on the geocaching.com map, also on the Project GC map. And you can click, and the extension lets you click on any cache on that page and add it to your trip, add a comment, set the priority, do all that stuff. So it is just wonderful. I have a note here. I want to make sure I get everything there. Yeah, so you can add a cap directly from a trip, from a map view, a cache page, a list of caches, or your virtual GPS on Project GC website. It is a wonderful tool.
In case you weren't sure, MC3 Cat says CacheTur rocks. Just in case you hadn't got there, we're only halfway through the list, and we've got incredible things. So fantastic. I don't know if I've used that extension. I'm sure I've got it loaded because I have, everybody has to have Tamper Monkey, and I think that's a great name we should give to Land Monkey when he gets back. He is the Tamper Monkey.
The Tamper Monkey, yes.
Yeah, the Tamper Monkey. Fantastic.
If you have fling it now.
Yeah. So yeah, that really extends CacheTur beyond just the one web page. It will work everywhere. Yeah. Again, CRS 98 says it's really useful for adding caches to your route that you're going to be driving past.
Yeah.
There you go. The Tamper Monkey. 3 cats. Yeah. We totally agree. Okay. On to number 6. And by the way, our numbers haven't matched up just yet. So
okay. Number 6 is CacheTur lists. So CacheTur is for planning trips. There's also lists on CacheTur, and lists are collections of caches, collections of other kinds of waypoints, anything basically anything with coordinates is what would make sense to be on a list.
Mhm.
And you can, when you're planning, so I keep CacheTur lists. It could be caches I want to find. It could be other things like all the cities and towns locations that are on that challenge. And you can overlay multiple lists over a trip. So if I was planning a trip, for example, inside Washington State, I could overlay my list of caches I want to find in Washington State and my cities and towns list that's not caches, it's just dots on the map that are the towns. And then I can, with a click, I can add those to the trip, because I see, oh, that's along my route, using it kind of the same way as that I described the CacheTur assistant working. So using lists inside of CacheTur. Lists can be shared with other participants just in the same way that trips can. So often when I'm planning a trip with some other people, I will make the trip and then I'll also make a list for the trip. Everybody can throw all their wish items onto that list, and then we can, superimpose that over the trip to see what makes sense on what, day of the trip or whatever like that. And there's also a bunch of public lists that you can use that are things like webcams, oldest cache in each state, Cache Across America list that anybody can subscribe to. So that's handy. You don't have to keep lists for everything yourself.
That's very handy.
So those are already on CacheTur and be able to quickly import into your trip.
Oh, well, yeah, because you can just, you subscribe to that and then it just kind of shows up in your own list so that when you're picking a list to overlay over your trip, it's right there, the webcams or whatever.
Okay, that wasn't on my list, but now it is.
I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
It made the top 11. Okay.
Excellent.
I think it goes to 11.
It goes to 11. Mine does now.
All right. Well, that brings us to number 7. Lucky number 7. Who's the lucky winner here?
Lori Seebeck kind of touched on this, that you can include non-geocaching waypoints like lodging, food,
there you go.
Other points of interest, breweries. That's my favorite.
Oh, that's a good one. I'll have to add
so
that
when you're planning your trip, it doesn't have to be just geocaches. And just like what he's saying here, the hotel is the start and end point of your trip.
Yep. Easy to jump ahead to the end if we get tired, but he never gets tired on caching. I know that.
Only if he gets dried out because he's wet all the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so non-geocaching waypoints, or waypoints, fabulous. That was on my list. And
So you're still maintaining a list of 11?
Well, yeah.
So far,
there's nothing wrong.
No.
What about number 8?
Number 8, Adventure Lab integration.
Yes.
So Adventure Labs, you can get a map of Adventure Labs in the area of your trip, and you can actually set what radius you want to look in, look at different points, and then click on the map and add from the map. So
nice.
Just Adventure Lab integration is very clean, very nice.
Yeah, I like that you no longer have to go out to another website, create a GPX list from Adventure Labs, be able to pull into CacheTur to be able to get. I've done it.
Right. Well, fortunately, the API allows that now, so that's really good.
Seebeck Tribe loves the ad for the Adventure Labs.
One tip I will give for Adventure Labs real quick is just to say, I think CacheTur adds a little bit too much time for Adventure Labs. Also, in my opinion, virtuals and earth caches. So it's good to know that you can adjust the times yourself. You can override the estimated times. So.
Well, I kind of like leaving them a little longer so that I know I'm ahead of schedule and I can look at this. I've got 5 minutes and next stop at 7 minutes and look at me. I'm going right.
Beat the clock.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. By the end of the day, I'm like 2 hours ahead of time. It's like, well, okay, now what? Oh, wait, I've got more.
He likes to add things to his lists just so he can check them off too.
Yeah, I do have a thing about checking off. Now, this is an example of the great help that people give each other in the chat on the show. CRS98's talking with GSM times 2, saying you can import a GPX file into CacheTur under the waypoints menu. Now, that kind of fits into the non-geocaching waypoints to an extent. Of course, they could be geocaching waypoints as well. So there you go.
Yep, that was response to a question GSM times 2 post.
Yeah.
So,
Just finding our way says sometimes they give too much time on the challenge caches, but not always.
sounds like a challenge.
Oh,
Chris, I bet my number 8 was higher on your list. Is it
yes,
true?
it was. I think
Mhm.
that was number 4 on my list. Yeah. So what? Oh, Adventure Lab integration. No, was number 5.
Sorry.
Your number 9 is my number 4.
That's the one. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
that's the one.
Let's jump into number 9 then. I'm curious now.
So the CacheTur app is a really useful tool for executing your trip in the field. CacheTur is a planning tool. It's meant to be used with a browser for planning your trip. But once you're in the field, you can run your trip using your phone app. And like Chris says, that you can see how you're doing, with your time, because as you're leaving the cache, is that how you do it? As you're leaving the cache, you say departed, it updates the time, and you say, oh, we're going to finish our trip at this time and all that stuff. So yeah, just some features of the app, that there's a map button for each waypoint, each waypoint that has coordinates, so you can just navigate right from the app. There's an open button that will open the cache, a geocache in your app of choice. It shows your personal note. It shows your the note that you, or comment that you put in on CacheTur if you put one. It shows the cache hint and other cache details like size, DT, those sorts of things. So at a glance, you can really see a lot of detail.
That's great.
It is a fantastic hub to manage your caching trip. Now, you really need multiple people in the vehicle to do this, right? You need a driver, but you need somebody managing the CacheTur app, because the driver can't do that while they're driving. But then the navigator, as I place that role, right? So here you can click on it, it goes to the maps, and it starts navigating to the next location for the driver while they're still updating and or looking at the hint, and okay, the next one is a difficulty 3 nano, and the hint says, in a cedar bush.
Cedar bush, yeah, exactly. And is that a cross-platform app?
Yeah, it's on Android and iOS.
Nice.
Currently. Yep. And there's one little trick for this, and I don't know if you've used this, Chris, but you can set a checkpoint. You can make any waypoint on your trip be a checkpoint. And this is a really handy thing. You can do it both in planning, but you can also do it dynamically in the app. And most of the app is not meant to be dynamic. It's meant to just be static, but you can use it in that. And this is a really nice thing. You've probably noticed that at the bottom of your screen, it says your arrival time at the end of the day. Checkpoint will let you make any waypoint be your next arrival time down there so right on the bottom of the app, you'll see when you're getting to that waypoint. So say you're heading to an event and you're finding caches along the way, and then you realize, oh, we better get going because our arrival time. So
we may be late for the event.
Really nice thing. So yeah, you just tap on the 3-dot menu of the waypoint that you want to set to be that. So anyway, use checkpoints in the app. It's a really nice little feature for things that have timings, like ferries and events and stuff like that.
Yeah. Things like, you don't want to miss the ferry because now you've got to wait another 2 hours or
more.
Or more. CRS98 says the app was much higher on my list as well. So look at this. People are keeping lists at home.
Yeah.
And we'll have to get back. Remind me of the timing for the ferries. I was talking with MC3 Cats earlier today, and he had a great app that helps with all that. So.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I didn't know it did all this. Okay, that was number 9, the CacheTur app. That was. I have one question. You can do a trip plan with a group. I tossed in the word multi-user. Is that right? Or is it group planning? Or
I would call it group planning, but what do you have in mind with multi-user?
well, that you can have multiple people put in items or stops. Multiple people can do the route planning, right? The route optimization.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was just thinking it's kind of a multi-user tool in that sense that I think I haven't done it in a while because I make everybody equal on the trip, but I think you can
Right.
set different levels
Yeah.
of control in the app, right? Or on the
Right.
page.
So the person who creates the trip is the owner. And when you invite other participants to join the trip, there's 3 possible roles. They can be a co-host, which gives
Mhm.
them pretty much most of the same rights and as the owner, with one exception. They can be just a regular participant. I don't even remember because I'm the same as you. I make everybody be co-host
Yeah,
normally.
exactly.
And
Give
then there's
everybody full power.
and then there's observer that sees limited details. But yeah, there's 3 different levels, and the intermediate level that's not coming to my mind right now, they can't do as much. They can suggest, for example, they can suggest adding caches, but they can't add caches and that kind of thing.
Right.
And the only thing a host can do that I know of right now, but the co-host can't, is add sub-trips. So if you're doing a trip that has sub-trips, then the host needs to add those. But yeah, multi-user, that's a good way to describe it. They are definitely your different user levels.
That's true. Permissions.
Yeah, permissions. There we go.
Hackles, if you will. Wits End, what do we have?
Well, gosh, by my count, it's not 11, so it must be 10.
So for me, 1 through 8 was all planning stuff for before the trip.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 9 was something that you used during the trip. And so I don't know if you guys have ever used this, but number 10 is for after the trip. There's a logging tool for logging your cat finds. It keeps track of within the logging tool is the task manager. So some cache types have tasks, things that you have to do afterward, like virtuals, you need to send answers. Earth caches, you need to go out and get a PhD and then answer the questions.
Oh, I like you.
In some cases. Anyway, so within the logging tool are the tasks. Those can be shared with other people. So if you're, for example, one of you in the group is getting the PhD for everybody, you can share the information that you learned. And you can also keep track of, did the CO respond? All that stuff is inside the task manager. And then the logging manager itself is just really powerful. It's just really nice to log in terms, just for everything you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've used this, but the one slickest part of it is you can import photos for like a whole trip. Just say, took all these pictures. I don't know what went to what. Bring them in, and it sucks in the pictures, and it'll assign them to the different caches based on geolocation and timing.
Oh, that's correct.
Fantastic.
Right.
That's what
just
finding our way does.
Says.
Yeah.
I use the app with the post-trip assistant for all my trip logs, which makes adding photos super easy.
That's great.
Super
Wet
easy.
Coaster earlier said the same thing. Very handy to use the post-trip assistant. So
should have had these guys on instead of me.
The cats really want attention, apparently, in the back.
Yeah.
She does.
So that was your top 10.
Mm-hmm.
I think you missed one.
What did I miss?
There's no paywall.
Oh, that was bonus. The bonus love.
Oh, the bonus.
Number 11.
Oh, okay. Number 11.
Yeah.
That, you can use it absolutely free. It is supported by your voluntarily paying but you know what? It just gives you more access. It's fantastic. And I'll throw in there are 0 ads on the pages. So there you go.
Yep. Entirely donation supported.
Yeah. Just finding our way says, I learned something. I learn something new every time there's a CacheTur conversation.
Well, and apparently so does Wet Coaster, because he said he used the post-trip assistant, but he said he wasn't aware about getting the photos organized to the correct log. So that's a huge thanks for that.
Yeah. It is such a powerful tool. I explain to people that tools that are incredibly flexible are powerful, and there's some inherent difficulty, some inherent complexity in that because they are so powerful and flexible. So there's always things to learn.
I'm going to say, as a tool for helping people learn, YouTube, that there are there's a handful of really nice YouTubes to help you get started. And there's one like really complete, like a teaching session that somebody did. So if you just look on YouTube for the CacheTur channel, those are all linked up right there. And I highly recommend.
I use YouTube all the time to learn new things.
Mm-hmm.
People go, oh, how do you do this? Have you heard of this secret little site called YouTube? It's more than just music videos.
YouTube University.
Yeah.
Auto repairs, home repairs. Yeah. Use it all the time.
I've taken a video down to my dryer.
Yeah.
Pause that, do that step. Okay. Next one, do that step. Yep. My dryer works after that. So there you go. Just let you in on a secret. Let's see. CRS98 says lists are new to me as well. Starcasher says I need to look into the list feature. There you go. See, people learn. So thank you so much for coming on. This was very enlightening. I love the way our lists line up. I think we both had 11 items. I think we covered it all. So, did we mention that there's support if you need help?
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
So yeah, if people need help, there's a pretty active CacheTur users forum on Facebook. There's an actual support center. If you're on the CacheTur page, click around, you'll be able to enter your questions there. And our support staff, us volunteers are, you can often get someone. It's not necessarily instant turnaround, but we shoot to get back to people within a few hours. We're in Europe and mostly the West Coast of North America.
That's fantastic.
So, that's great.
Yeah.
And don't forget YouTube. Or you can listen to this podcast over and over again until you finally understand all 11 points that we've talked about. It'll take me a couple of times of listening to figure out, oh, wait, that's how that works again.
Yeah. I was just scrolling back through the chat. I think we covered an awful lot of stuff there. So that's great. I did see earlier on Starcacher says I prefer to manually sort the caches for the trip. And that's great because you can do that and still take advantage of so many other benefits.
You can manually sort them and still do route optimization, or at least routing without optimization.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Sorry, I used the wrong term there. You can still use routing if you manually sort them.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And listeners, thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest. And we want to take just a moment to thank Landsharks and, hold on, I have to get my screens up here, and Gold Country Geotourism, our corporate Denali level sponsors. Landsharks is the outdoor adventure and geocaching store. Check them out online, and they ship online orders daily. You don't even have to wait. The day you order it, it goes out. And we also want to thank Explore Gold Country for their absolutely amazing geocaching adventures. Now's the time, folks. Start heading up into Gold Country and go out and fill out those those passports, because you're going to want to get that little bar of gold. We know you do. And of course, we want to thank our faithful Denali level supporters. That's Landsharks, Gold Country, Geotourism, Groovy Owl, Cool Cow Cachers, and Cashly. If you want to know more about supporting the show, click the Patreon link on the CachingInW.com website, like the Camp Clan did.
And Whidbey Island Gal.
Subway Mark.
Trexer.
Segehove.
Mountain Bike.
Kid Vegas 19.
Katie Quest.
Limax.
Railroad.
Boomer 365.
Wet Coaster, active in the chat.
And Teas.
GeoNav Pro.
Alarobrick.
Doramore also in the chat.
And Ari 54321.
Logwork.
Wino Seattle.
GeoBirder.
Ackerdoc.
Genies.
Korsgat.
Flagman.
CRS 98 active in the chat.
Yeah. BC Rock Crawler.
JCar.
MNerf.
Peach of Washington.
MC3 Cats. Good to see him in the chat tonight.
Geocaches.
Just Finding Our Way. Loves CacheTur.
You, Dak.
Team Noltex.
Gas Station Tuna.
Just Carlo.
You Talks to Rocks.
Green Words.
Butterfly Girl.
Seebeck Tribe.
GSM times 2.
Kev MacD.
LG 9000.
Nervous Energies.
The Pendragon.
And Sky Hawker. So many great patrons there. Thank you. And so many of them were in the chat tonight. Active.
Mm-hmm.
And Twalair, I know how to pronounce your caching name now. That I just feel so accomplished. If somebody wanted to get in contact with you about CacheTur or just to say, hey, well done, how would you prefer them to reach out and get in touch with you?
Best ways through the geocaching.com messaging center. My geocaching name is TWLARE. And for questions about CacheTur, I think I already mentioned that there's the Facebook users forum and that we have a support center, and we also have a Slack, and people are invited to join in on that as well. And that's a great place to get. That's where we're talking to each other, so that's a good place to get.
I hear that's where the cool kids are.
Yeah,
that's where the cool kids are.
Okay.
And they're not slack on that Slack, because if they're getting back within
slacking.
a couple of hours on emails, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Well, folks, thanks for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest. Your support helps keep the quality shows coming. If you like the show, please click the Patreon link on the CachingNW.com website. You would think, what are we, show 560, and I still stumble over this. If you didn't like the show, let us know what you want us to talk about. But if you like the vibe, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a review. Now, if you were in a restaurant, you would tip. If you were in a live audience, you would clap. But since you're on a podcast, leave us a free, fast, fabulous, fantastic 5-star review. You can call into 253-693-TFTC and leave us a comment, ask us a question, or join us on a road trip any time of the day or night. And of course, you can email us at feedback@CachingInW.com. Join us every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Pacific for a live show and chat. The show is produced by Chris Umfenauer, Jim Paulwitz, Jay Kennedy, and Brian Lang. It's licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Copyright 2024 by Chris Umfenauer. Folks, I ask you to stay tuned for
the after show. Breathe and breathe.
Now, this is not on caffeine. Okay, let's see.
There were a couple of tour comments before we jumped totally into after show stuff.
I like a couple of people mentioned being able to print out their routes.
Seebeck Tribe said so, and Star Cacher said yes, they print out of the trip as my Bible during a geo trip. So that's great.
Yes.
Which, and if you're not an app lover, then it's a great alternative. You know, you can print, and there's a lot of different formats you can choose.
And then you were mentioning
you're gonna love that app.
Yeah, you were mentioning the support and Slack and stuff. Wet Coaster says, posted a question on Tuesday night, got a response the next day. Maybe you already touched that one, but that's great.
Isn't that fantastic?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a couple of FATAS. We're going to jump right into FATAS. Again, thank you so much for joining us. CRS98 says, I need to start planning my Geo Woodstock trip to Flagstaff. I really need to figure out what things I want to do. Who else is going? Well, I'm going. It's going to be a short trip, flying in on Friday, leaving on Monday. But yeah, there's going to be some things to do. I am going to go hit the Four Corners probably on Sunday. I know it's a long trip out there, but I thought that's just so cool.
Yeah.
It's a really cool place.
Yeah. So mentioned it. Let's see. I saw some friends who now live in Arizona, and I told them we're going out there, and they're like, "Oh, you know what? We live in the state, and we haven't been out there. Can we join you? Yeah, you got to come early Sunday morning because we're driving out there." So yeah, we might take our friends with us. They're not geocachers, but nonetheless, going to the Four Corners, I think, is cool. So
yeah. It's amazing how many times I don't see the things that are right in my own backyard until visitors come to town.
Exactly.
Like, oh, I've been meaning to do that. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have you been to the Space Needle? Just on a Wednesday because I was in the city. I may as well go up there. You just don't do it.
I used to walk past it almost daily, but
yeah, you look up and you go, yeah, that's still cool.
Yeah,
but that's about it, right?
Yeah.
Or ride the ducks or do any of the tourist things. You don't do them.
Yeah,
not in your own hometown. And I'm really terrible being able to tell people, oh, this is a great hotel to stay at. I don't know what are the good hotels in my town.
Right?
Yeah. I have a house that I live at.
Yeah.
I have my own bed. I don't know where to sleep. Okay.
Well, sooner than that, there is a mega event on May the 4th, the Spring Fling 3, according to GSM Times 2. So,
you sure it's not I?
Well, that would be, it's for the 4th. I don't know if that works. But
see you there, Scott.
All right.
Oh, nice.
So that is where in the
LA.
Southern California, Southern California region.
Southern California. It is in LA.
Okay.
Yep.
Like the coordinators are for the Geo Woodstock that's
same
in
people.
Arizona.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, it's the same people because they didn't have enough, pain and headache. They decided, let's do a mega event and then follow it up with another mega event. Actually, though, once you get started, if you've got a template, it just works, doesn't it?
Well, and if you were paying attention earlier tonight, if you go to that mega event on May 4th, you will earn a Blue Switch souvenir because that's between May 2nd and 5th.
Wait a minute. You're right. And an event cache counts. That's all you have to do. Just go to that one event. How
easy is that?
Yeah. Okay. Now, I said earlier that I was told about, I didn't discover it, that there is a WashDOT app. So Washington State Department of Transportation, WSDOT, they have ferry schedules on there along with the load at the moment of how many cars and spaces available. They will show you the current pass reports. They will show you, be able to look at all the individual traffic cameras. They have the wait times at the borders. And of course, traffic, a traffic map. And I'm like, wow, all this on an app. Now I know they do that through the website and I end up having to, that's tough to navigate a website, when you're trying to get up to the border and trying to look at border times and figure out which ones this app makes it really easy. So I just learned about it today. I was today years old when I figured out that WashDOT has their own app.
That's cool.
And that it does a lot of things. So if you live in Washington State and you travel on the roads, let me suggest an application for you. Go download the WSDOT app.
Yeah. Sounds like it's really handy.
That one came at no charge. You're free to take that home tonight.
Well, my little tip, when I was riding the ferries on a regular basis, I have a ham radio receiver in my car, but you can, get a ham radio walkie-talkie fairly cheap. Go online, look at the radio reference frequency page. You can find the radio frequencies for the walkie-talkies that the crews use to communicate. When they're opening the gates and when they're docking and stuff. And sometimes it's helpful to know what's happening, or just kind of listen in and.
You can listen in, and they said, "Okay, 4 more cars."
Yeah. And you look at oh crap, I'm car number 6. Doggone it.
Not going to make
Gonna
this.
wait here another hour, but yeah.
You know what? I was going to end the podcast, but there are a couple of good comments here.
By all means.
He's ridden the ducks.
I've ridden the ducks in
Very
Seattle, Boston, and Honolulu.
Oh, all in the same day?
No. And not the same duck.
Oh,
that would be a long duck trip, but
and fast.
Yeah.
Oh, airplanes going overhead. I was like, what is that sound? Seabeck Tribe didn't even think about going to Four Corners. Yeah, don't even think about it's going to be crowded.
Yeah, it's something on my list. I want to go someday. I'm not going to make this one, but I want to go.
And just finding our way is going to see us there, referring to Geo Woodstock, I assume, complete with a CacheTur 3-day trip.
See you there, John.
Fantastic. Hope to see you there. We'll run into each other. Insurance will cover that. Don't worry about it.
You were printing things out earlier. Oh, go ahead. Lori's Seabeck Tribe, you can set notifications for different things around the state.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
I was just saying you could, they were talking earlier about printing things out.
Mm-hmm.
That gives you some paper to write down multi-cache stages and, field
smart.
solvable puzzles and stuff. Sometimes it's hard to find scratch paper.
Mm-hmm. And, printing it out makes a lot of sense if, I'm thinking of going to Four Corners, which, sure, I can get there, but I'm sure there's going to be some periods on the road there where I may not have the best cell connection for data to update everything.
Yeah.
Wet Coaster says we spend the weekend downtown every couple of years and play tourists where we live.
That's a great idea.
Neat idea.
That is smart.
Yeah.
Downtown. That's where everything happens. We should write a song about going downtown.
Yeah.
Folks, while we're doing that, make sure you get out and get caching.